Hello, welcome to Spotlight, beaming artistic goodness island-wide.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we enjoy a brief walk around the All at Sea exhibition at the House of Manannan in Peel. Continue our preview of LitFest 24 with Raike Bennett. And In Chrunniaght is here now. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. This programme. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, drag, film, mime, social media. We had punk the other week. Just email spotlight@manxradio.com or Howard Kane with an E at manxradio.com. Either, both, but do it and we'll get you on the programme. So, hopefully it hasn't escaped your attention that this year marks the 200th anniversary of the RNLI, perhaps one of the most amazing charities in the world, where volunteers, men and women, regularly put their own lives at risk in order to save those in peril on the high seas. And of course, it has its origins here on the Isle of Man, where founder Sir William Hillary had his home. Numerous events have been held, more scheduled, I believe, during the remainder of the year. And at the House of Manannan in Peel, the exhibition All at Sea is currently running, and it runs for the rest of the year, exploring the Isle of Man's remarkable maritime heritage and honouring the 200th anniversary of the charity. I called in to have a brief walk around in the company of Curator of Archaeology at MNH, Alison Fox.
There's a couple of factors, really, that came together for this exhibition. The first is the 200th anniversary of the RNLI. It was formed in 1824, and it very much had its roots on the Isle of Man. And we know that there's always been a close association with the island and the RNLI, but we didn't really know how much that people knew that Sir William Hillary got his idea for the RNLI actually from the shores and what was happening around the coast of the Isle of Man. So we wanted to really spell that out, to say what an important part the island played in the history. The other factor was we've had a donation of information, essentially. Adrian Corkill, who's a local historian, has been working for 30 years researching shipwrecks, recorded shipwrecks around the island. And a couple of years ago, he donated his database and all of his information to Manx National Heritage, and we've been able to make that available online for free for anybody to go and have a look at. So we wanted to sort of celebrate that, again, bring that to people's attention. So we thought this would be the perfect time to talk about some of the stories from the thousands of shipwrecks around the Isle of Man and how those affected what was happening, and certainly Sir William Hillary's thoughts on this institution that was needed.
And I'm guessing then, because just looking around here as we're standing here now, there are pictures, there are paintings and wonderful artefacts as well. As soon as you come in on your left, you've got a character, well, if you're of a certain age, which I am, you'll recognise this character from outside the lifeboat station back in the day.
That's right. We've got St George. So we've got the figurehead of a ship called St George, and the figurehead stood outside Peel Lifeboat Station for many, many years, and we've done a few sort of gallery tours and just chatting to people in the exhibition. Loads of people remember him being there, and he was outside and he'd had a little collecting box by him for the RNLI. So people have got really fond memories of him. So when we were putting the exhibition together, we were looking at the different artefacts and we were looking at all these images, and we saw these images of him outside the lifeboat station. So we thought, well, I wonder if the lifeboat station would let us have a free transfer for the duration of the exhibition. So we talked to the guys at Peel, and so we're really, really pleased that he's been able to come around the other side of the quay for us for just about a year, and then he'll hop back.
So how difficult is it to actually curate an exhibition like this? Because, as you say, as you've just mentioned, he's on loan from the RNLI and will be going back again. I'm assuming maybe one or two pieces do actually come from the archives or the stores of MNH itself, but are there lots of other sources you have to go around to actually get a loan or be able to borrow these pieces?
It's been quite an unusual exhibition for me, really. I usually do exhibitions on much older stuff, on the archaeological collections, but this one, it was really difficult to narrow down which stories we were going to present to people. As I said, there's, more or less 2,000 recorded shipwrecks. All of them have a story. Some of them we know more detail about than others. So it was trying to narrow down this vast amount of information. As far as the actual artefacts go, we don't have a huge number because the ships that were sunk, very few things have been brought up from those shipwrecks. So we had a look at the different stories, how they fitted into the story of the RNLI, and we also went out to some people that we knew had some really nice artefacts as well. So we're really lucky in that the RNLI themselves, the heritage collections, have loaned us the actual gold medal that Sir William Hillary was awarded for starting the RNLI, and it's it's not a massive medal, but it's one of these things that just gives me the shivers, really, just to think that, he held that, he was awarded that by the institution that he founded, and just him thinking, I did it, we actually did it, so there's little artefacts like that are really important. And from the archives as well, we've got a first edition of the pamphlet that Sir William set out what the institution should be like. So it gives his thoughts. It's in there that he says, the idea came to me while I've been here in Douglas, essentially. And it sets out his really quite forward-thinking ideas on what the RNLI was to become. It should be for everybody. He says, doesn't matter whether you're from the palace or the cottage, doesn't matter which country you're from, whether in peace or war, if you're in trouble, we should try and help each other. And that's why the exhibition's called All at Sea, because really that's what Sir William wanted. He wanted to help all at sea, those who needed rescuing and those who did the rescuing as well.
We'll take a look at that medal in just a moment. We'll just perhaps on a more, you could say mundane, but of course this is right behind where we're standing now, is the nitty-gritty really, because we're so used to the RNLI having such high-tech kit now, both for the people who man the boats, and of course the boats themselves are incredibly high-tech. But it wasn't always that way when it first started out, of course. It was pretty basic stuff, and we just have some of the different types of, well, like I said, RNLI, sou'westers and oilskins. This was some of the stuff that the men, and I'm saying men because I assume it would all be men back in the day, would wear, which looks pretty basic compared to the stuff they have on now.
It really is, and even up until the 1970s, we've got a sou'wester oilskin on display here from the 1970s. The equipment was very basic, and I think one of the things we wanted to try and get across is, these people were really putting themselves in harm's way. If a ship was in trouble, the chances are it was in trouble because the weather was really bad. So these volunteers were putting their lives on the line. They were going out with these very basic coats to protect them, and they were approaching these huge ships that were flailing around in the sea. They were, on the verge of foundering. They had to try and get the people off these ships. They had to try and get a rope to these ships. So just to sort of highlight that it's all that, that mentality of we'll just go. We'll go. It's okay. We'll go. And this is all we have, but we'll still go. It's amazing.
We'll take a look at the medal. We go down this way. Pictures of Sir William Hillary on the wall as well. And, oh goodness, here it is, yes, just underneath his portrait. It is actually quite small, isn't it? Yes.
It is, yeah. There's it's funny, you see it's in a frame, and it's got a plaque in the frame. It's a gold medallion presented in March 1825 to Sir William Hillary, original projector of this institution. And the plaque's bigger than the medal, for such an achievement. But the medal sort of shows a sailor being rescued from the sea in gold, and it's just really understated. But what it illustrates is this drive, not only from Sir William Hillary, but the people who came before him to perform these rescues, and all the people who came after him, and that will come in the future as well.
And there's a copy here, I think that you were saying this is the first edition, which details the points Well, basically the main points of the actual institution he was setting up. First, he says the preservation of human life from shipwreck, which should always be considered as the first great and permanent object of the institution. Secondly, assistance to vessels in distress, which immediately connects itself with the safety of the crews. Thirdly, the preservation of vessels and property were not so immediately connected with the lives of the people or after the crews and passengers shall already have been rescued. Fourthly, the prevention of plunder, you never think of that of course, and depredations in cases of shipwreck. More from Alison at the exhibition soon. But if you're heading Peel way, or even if you're not, don't forget, of course, that wonderful Celtic gathering in Chrunniaght is underway this week. Loads of events going on, as we highlighted here on Spotlight a few weeks back. But Chloe Woolley, Brisha Kermode and Grania Jochen from the organising committee told Christy de Haven more on Live Lounge.
There are many free events, so through the week from Monday to Friday, every single day there is something happening at No Bakehouse, the Market Hall, from 1 till 2 p.m. So if you fancy grabbing some food and watching some traditional music sessions, there is a Manx session, an Irish session, a Welsh session, so that's every day, Monday to Friday.
There's such good fun as well, because it's basically everyone sat around a table sort of eating but playing music at the same time.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And so that's Monday to Friday, and then most evenings there's a kind of late night session in various places, the White House pub in Peel, O'Donnell's, and there are some exciting new events happening this year every day at Black Dog Oven in Peel. So from 5 till 7 on the weeknights there are music and pizza sessions, which are new for this year and kindly supported by the Domestic Event Fund. So yeah, that's the kind of free events. There's also at the very end of the week in Peel you've got the Sea Festival happening, but everything is on the website and the programme is all there, so if you wanted to have a look at the free events, it's all in the programme.
And also, we were saying, Granny, obviously, one of the things you particularly like is the dancing, obviously. But there's a bit of a change with the main dance event this year.
So we've started the Mega Manx Ceilidh idea a couple of years ago now. Obviously, Peel Cathedral has just seen this lovely new facelift, if you like, to kind of allow it to host big events. And with Peel being kind of the heart of Chrunniaght, and we thought, well, how lovely to utilise that. So I'm excited about that. So Friday night, Mega Manx Ceilidh, lots of performances, and also obviously the Ceilidh dancing. And we're having Fenodary Distillery down as well to put in a bar. So what's not to love?
And obviously, as I said, we can find out everything, can't we, on the website and on the Facebook. There's really good information. But if people want to get tickets, Chloe, how do they do that?
Well, through our website, celticgathering.im, there is a ticket bulletin where you can buy online tickets. We've run out, I think, we might have one festival pass left. Otherwise, we've got tickets in Celtic Gold and some limited amount left in Manannan Music. But from Monday afternoon, we're going to be set up as a festival office in the Centenary Centre. So you can pop in and see if you've got any tickets left, or call our hotline, which is 30 22 00.
It's always a great event. I was there last night. Check it out. Really is something for everyone. And it runs through until the 28th of July. Details online in chrunniaght.com. Now, fast coming up on the rails is another great event in the Manx cultural calendar, LitFest. We heard a little bit about it last week from committee member Raike Bennett, but I wanted to know more about structuring the content of the festival. Is it difficult trying to get a spread? Because there's so many which is like LitFest, which covers a multitude of sins, as it were. And obviously there's so many genres within that. I mean, obviously you can think of plays, you can think of poetry, you can think of drama, you can think of different types of drama, you can think of crime writing, science fiction, etc., etc. Is it difficult to try and get a sort of a balanced spread across all these different genres?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's so tricky because we do try and bring, one of our commitments is to promoting, a diversity of genres and all of that. And obviously we've got such a mixed audience on the island. We've got people who love all kinds of different stuff. So we always try and bring over a mix. But because we are quite a small festival in the grand scheme of things, we are only able to bring over a certain number of authors each year. So yes, it is difficult. We always try to bring over a poet, and other genre writers. We also non-fiction ones. We always try and bring over some non-fiction folks. And one of the other things we do is we try and bring over a literary agent from one of the literary agencies in the UK. This year we've got Lydia Silver from the Darley Anderson Children's Agency. She's going to be coming over and she'll be at Writers' Day. And one of the things we offer, which is a pretty unique thing, is that local authors or aspiring writers can pitch to this agent and pitch their project or their manuscript and get feedback from a literary agent as to how their project is going.
Marvelous.
And yeah, this is just something that you can't really get on the island because obviously literary agents are mostly based in the UK. So it's very difficult for especially aspiring writers and poets and illustrators and everyone over here to be able to get that sort of face-to-face meeting. So we're very happy to be able to provide something like that.
It's interesting mentioning there, you think, I suppose, when you say literature, people instantly, I suppose, think of novels and writing and sort of fiction. But of course, as you say, there's that whole thing, there's a massive market of non-fiction, of sort of fact writing, whether it's travel books or travel guides or cookery or food writing, all these sort of different genres there as well.
It is, and there's just so much, and you just see it in the local writing population as well. I'm lucky enough to be involved in that community, and there are so many amazing talents over here. But you see even more. We've got amazing poets, we've got amazing authors, we've got non-fiction, fiction in all genres. We've got playwrights, we've got filmmakers. This island is just amazing for the talent pool it has for such a relatively small population. And it's really fantastic that we're able to bring over visiting authors to be able to, and artists to be able to speak to the population and chat with everyone. It's and yeah, it's I'm just really enthusiastic about it.
And you mentioned schools a little bit earlier on. Is it important that you try to get that sort of youth element? Because obviously getting people interested or children interested in reading and literary arts from an early age is very important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of the things we really want to promote is to leave a lasting legacy of literature on the island, and we attempt to do that by providing opportunities for young people to come to have this exposure to literature, and we collect as many authors as we can, and the local authors on the island are also fantastic to help us out with this as well, and they will go into the schools and do schools visits and talk to assemblies or do workshops with children. We also do separate events for kids aimed at different age ranges, and we are also putting on, hopefully this LitFest, a poetry workshop for children, for young teenagers. So yes, we try our very best to get as many possible opportunities for children to see how great literature is, because there's just such a there's a proven link between literature and reading and mental health and well-being and combating isolation and all of those things that have become so much, well, have always been important, but have become so much more important, especially over lockdown and everything.
Definitely. And how would you describe the literary scene on the island? Because I suppose in a way it sometimes, I think, sails a little under the radar because, we know the island's got a fantastic reputation in music and the performing arts, and they're very much up there, of course, things at the Gaiety, people performing, the Villa Marina, the Guild, all this sort of thing. Literary tends to be, by its nature, less of a performance area, but it always seems that there's a huge amount of talent there. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. It's literature tends to be a thing that you have the idea of just sitting quietly at home and doing. There's other things, like music and plays and things that is very much a going out and doing a social thing. But when you think of reading, you typically think of doing it on your own quietly at home or with an audiobook or however you choose to consume reading material. But there's a really fantastic audience on the island for literary events, and we see this year on year, but we see so many people turning up for our festival, and people from all walks of life from all over the island, sometimes folks who've never heard of us before just rock up at an event, and it's just so fantastic to see, and like you say, younger people as well coming along, and there's a real enthusiasm for literature and reading, which is always just wonderful to see.
It sounds great stuff as always. I know lots of things going on there. We'll catch up a little bit closer to the time to see exactly if there's been any last minute changes, any last minute additions, and hear a little bit more what's happening when we get a bit closer to September. For the meantime, thanks very much for chatting to us today, and just give us, if anyone's thinking, where can I find out more details about what's happening, what's going on? Is there a website or somewhere someone can go?
Yes, absolutely. Come along to manxlitfest.com or find us on Facebook at Manx LitFest, and just drop us a message, say hi, We've got all of the announcements of authors. As we start to announce events, we will put them up on Facebook. We'll put them on our website. We will just shout at them about them as often as we possibly can. And if you just bump into us, just ask us about it, because you can probably tell I will talk about it for literally hours on this subject if you let me go with it. So just come along and hit us up.
It's always good stuff. It takes place between the 24th and the 29th of September. It will be here before you know it.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Just time for a second walk around the wonderful All at Sea exhibition at the House of Manannan.
As well as the RNLI, we talk a little bit about the Rocket Brigade. The Rocket Brigade were in existence, again, a voluntary organisation around the coasts of the Isle of Man, and they would work with the RNLI after the RNLI was formed. But essentially their job was to try and get a line, a rope from the shore to a ship that was in trouble if it was within distance. And we've actually got a rocket that was used by the Castletown Rocket Brigade here, and we've got a fabulous photo of one of their training evenings or training days, and a rocket's being fired. And again, it's just that, you know, if your ship is sinking, these are the only things you've got to rely on, you know, and it's the reality of us being a maritime nation. You know, most of the time, I think most of us travel by plane now, coming and going from the island. But back in these times, of course, the sea was the only way on and off. And we were so tied to the sea, so many people were lost. It was a way of life, and all these kind of ingenious ways of trying to help people when they were in trouble came about. So it's great to have this object as well.
And a wonderful picture just above of one of the shipwrecks you can actually see, even if you're not a scuba diver, which is up on the northwest coast of the Isle of Man. You can see it at really low tide, a fishing vessel which, happily, all the crew were rescued due to the bravery of RNLI crew. And, of course, we should also say that Sir William Hillier, of course, I think St George's it is, isn't it? You can actually hear the grave is actually there.
Yes, yeah. Every year there's a commemorative service on the anniversary of his death, and he's got a memorial, his burial places in St George's, and we've got an oil painting in the exhibition which shows him taking part in a rescue of another ship called the St George, different St George, the figurehead.
Popular name of the day.
Moral of the story is don't call your ship the St George, I think. But this one is off Douglas, and it was the life-saving that happened from this ship that actually drove him to start fundraising for a place of refuge, or a tower of refuge in Douglas Bay. So it was that shipwreck that was the catalyst for that iconic little castle that we all see in Douglas today. It was a really good point you made about the wreck of the Passages that people can still see at low tide today. As you say, not many people scuba dive. You know, it's a complicated hobby. So another reason for us talking about the maritime heritage is to try and bring those stories to the surface as well, if you like.
So we come from the top corner of the gallery, and this is prevention of plunder.
In this section of the gallery, we have a photograph of one of the ships that has been wrecked, and this is the Thorn, and the photograph was taken as she lay on the rocks at Onken Head, so just sort of roundabout by Port Jack. She actually came into Douglas Bay in January 1890. She came into shelter from rough conditions in the Irish Sea. But the wind changed direction, Douglas Bay got really rough, she pulled her anchors and she was basically driven ashore the other side of the bay. The interesting thing about the Thorn is that she was carrying about 10,000 gallons of spirits, amongst other things. So I probably don't need to tell you the rest of the story, really. But there's some fantastic newspaper reports from the time that talk about this wreck, and of course people going down to help rescue cargo. There was no police then, so the customs officers would go down and they were trying to guard all the cargo, but people were climbing down the cliffs trying to drink out the barrels. Custom officers were kicking the barrels over, and the people were taking off their boots, scooping up the booze from the beach, and just a good night out in Douglas really generally. But the newspaper reports have got some great quotes which we reproduce here as well. So we've got a glorious state of insensibility rolling about higgledy-piggledy on the cliffs. In some cases, the women were even as bad as the men. And a scene of wild orgies commenced from about noon, the like of which has never been seen in Douglas before.
Sounds quite good, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the other things that the reports as well. A few people had to be taken to the hospital to have their stomachs pumped because they drank so much. But the hospital at that time was the Manx Museum, so it's quite a nice callback. I think one of the things for me doing this exhibition, and that's still really emotive, I think, the wreck of the St George in Peel, there were no shortages of volunteers for the lifeboat. The lifeboat managed to rescue everybody on board, including a baby who was carried off in a canvas bag. But shortly after the rescue, the captain was interviewed, and we have this amazing quote from him. So it's Captain Carl Torreson, and he says, "They are first-class men, those lifeboat men. There was not a soul of us aboard our vessel this time yesterday that expected to be saved. We never thought we should see today."
Yeah, which is amazing. Sort of sums it up, really, doesn't it? It's terrific. It's on now and it runs through till next January?
Yes, we're on until the 25th of January next year. And in the middle of November, we have our Labyrinth History in Action performance, and that will be based around the exhibition All at Sea, and that will be happening at the House of Manannan. I think tickets have just gone on sale for that as well. We're around about the 14th, 15th of November. So if people wanted to go onto the M&H website, they can find out a little bit more about that.
And I believe one Alison Fox will also be appearing in that production by the Labyrinth Players in November. Just saying. It's a great exhibition there, plenty of time to get there, so don't say I didn't tell you, don't leave it to the last minute. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst making a nice risotto? See you next week, when we'll be hearing all about the hunt for the new bard. Until then, look after yourselves and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.